Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Almost Local podcast. I'm Maria, I'm your host, and today I'm podcasting from Auckland, New Zealand. It's a winter day, but we are getting there. I'm really glad you're here. One of the things I love most about living between cultures is that it often invites us to question ideas we've always taken for granted. What does success really look like? How much of our identity comes from what we do, and how much comes from who we are? And what happens when the life we've carefully built no longer feels like it fits? These are the kinds of conversations I hope Almost Local can create. Because life abroad isn't only about visas, moving boxes, or learning a new language. It's also about navigating change, redefining ourselves, and discovering new ways of belonging. And today's conversation is one of those. I'm joined by Nikki Taylor, an author, coach, and former corporate executive originally from New Zealand. After years of living a fast-paced, high-achieving life, Nikki found herself facing burnout, a turning point that completely changed the direction of her life. Since then, she's dedicated her work to helping others redefine success, reconnect with themselves, and build lives that feel more intentional and sustainable. Although burnout might seem like a different topic from life between cultures, I think you'll hear just how connected these experiences really are. Because sometimes the biggest transitions in our lives aren't about crossing borders. They are about becoming someone new. But also Nikki has her experience of living in different countries, such as Australia, Dubai, and UK. Finally returning back to New Zealand during the pandemic. So everything is connected, and she has recently launched her first book. Is This It? So we are going to have a really nice conversation with Nikki. So grab a coffee, go for a walk, or simply make yourself comfortable. This is my conversation with Nikki Taylor. Welcome. Well, Nikki Taylor, welcome to the Almost Local podcast. I'm excited to have you here as a guest today. So thank you for joining. So for a brief introduction of Nikki, she will say more about her than what I'm saying now. But briefly, Nikki is a Kiwi. She's from New Zealand, and she has long experience of living in other countries. She's navigated life abroad in Australia, Dubai, and later the UK, returning to New Zealand after almost 17 years. Correct me if I'm wrong here. So, yeah, welcome to the Almost Local podcast. We have something in common, which is, well, of course, because we are in New Zealand, but apart from that, you've been here now back from UK for a couple of years, but we have experienced something or been experiencing something that we call the reverse culture shock, which is going back home. So we'll talk about this in the conversation. And I'm also excited about Nikki's book. She's just launched or launched?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Her first book. Is This It? So she will also tell us about the book. So congratulations on that as well. And let you say a bit more in depth. So welcome, Nikki.
Thank you so much. It's so lovely to be here. So thank you very much for inviting me to be on the Almost Local podcast. Pretty much you've got everything correct. I was away for nearly 17 years, went to Australia and then Dubai and then up to London. So I had a extended break and due to COVID, I had to come back because I didn't want to be locked out. So been back coming up 6 years. And like you said, there's definitely challenges of coming back home, which we'll explore. And I've just had Is This It published and released, which is really exciting. And I guess that means that I am now an author, which is great. And then previous to that, I spent a lot of my career in HR, hospitality, and corporate training. So, yeah, that is me. Moved back with my lovely partner. And then to make sure that we keep some of the UK alive, we have a lovely little cat, London, who is a British blue. So London is around us every day.
Okay, excellent. Well, and you said something, most Kiwis, do this so-called overseas experience, right? But this is the New Zealanders going for a year experience outside of the country. Like, well, it's very Kiwi. It's a very Kiwi thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, because we're so far away, literally the other side of the world to Europe, UK, and even the Americas, we want to spend some time overseas. And I think it is a very Kiwi experience. Aussie, also, a lot of people in Australia do it, and the English call it a gap year. So it's the same type of thing. It could happen straight after school or after uni, which was in my case. I graduated after a couple of degrees and then took off. So yeah, it is a new, I guess some people would say a rite of passage if you want to travel and if that is what you enjoy.
But like you said, it wasn't the traditional overseas experience because, of course, yes, you went to Australia, that quite straightforward, but then you went to Dubai, which was, that was quite different. And how was that experience, and what can you share about adapting to such a different culture?
Moving to Dubai was, I think, a really big part of how I developed as a person. Australia is amazing. It's one of my favorite countries in the world. However, it got a similar lifestyle to New Zealand. So I really wanted to go somewhere that I wasn't, or that I could experience a really different culture. And how I ended up in Dubai was I read a magazine article from Cosmopolitan that said Dubai is great. And I was like, cool, I'll go there. I just decided that I would move. And I literally turned up with a suitcase and a backpack and a whole lot of blind faith that I would get a job. And that's exactly what happened. And then ended up spending about 3.5 years there and just grew so much as a person, because you see things in such a different way when you're working with such different cultures than what you're used to. I was 27 years old when I moved there, and someone in Australia said, oh, Ramadan's just finished up there. And I was like, oh, what's that? Because obviously it was nearly 20 years ago and it's a little different now, but you just aren't aware of so many different events that are quite significant to the rest of the world when you are in, the Pacific there. And so it was great to just be a minority in some senses. And it was just great to learn so much and just become so much more culturally aware of how many different perspectives, ways of life, ways of running a business, what's enjoyable, what does family mean, language use, all of it kind of happened there for me.
Yeah. So it's definitely stepping out of your comfort zone, right? When you choose such a different culture to live. But that's what you were after, to do something that could, obviously the adventure of a different country, but something that would really push you a bit more out your comfort zone.
Exactly. And Dubai, what Dubai has done as in from a country point of view and how they've developed and all of that is amazing. And things, were opening up there left, right and centre, the architecture, how quickly Dubai developed in that, the late 90s and the early 2000s to what it is now. So I guess there was that similarity in a way, but it was just in such a foreign place. Maybe I could have been a little bit more organized with work and not just turn up and hope for the best, but it worked out well. It was a really great experience.
It's just like going to the movies without reading what the movie is about. Right? It just surprised me.
I'll pack up and move over. I'm sure. And I think that if you do move overseas, there's so much prep or organization and planning that you can do. But the reality of when you land and what it's actually like can be very different. So in a way, having, just kind of turning up worked out well.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
Someone will hire me.
No, but I mean, I totally get it. It's like sometimes I wonder what would have happened if you do like a country inspection. You go, you see how you feel about it. And it changes your whole experience, right? Maybe you decide not to move because you feel like, and one couple of a glimpse of the country, like a couple of days, it's not really enough.
Yeah.
To say,
and it's
this is not going to work, or this I'm going to love this.
Yeah, and I think you can get analysis paralysis with anything. And I think as long as you are going to be safe and you're able to, you've got enough to know that you can stay there for a while and give it a good go. And if not, you're able to get back home. So that was something when I traveled, I always made sure that I had enough money in my bank account that if the worst case scenario happened, I could always get myself home. And I think that was always a really good reassurance that no matter what, I could turn up at an airport and fly home.
Yeah.
Which,
that's safety.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Okay, so adventures, but at the same time, financially smart. Maybe.
And that is yes. No, for sure.
Well, but I mean, you've had your safety.
Yeah, my emergency fund. I think that's
emergency
fund. Like in that kind of way for me. That was, I always knew that. That it was there.
Okay, so you were in your 20s. You didn't know what the Ramadan was, but you knew about personal finances a bit to have an emergency fund. I mean, good, because this is important, because when you're taking this, risk of moving countries, because at the end of the day, there is some sort of risk of changing and just stepping out of your comfortable life in Australia. But you were still, okay, well, at least I have this plan. If it works, wonderful. If not, there is this
exit strategy.
Okay. And let's call it like that.
I didn't need to use it, which was good. But I think what you just touched on is that there is always a risk to travel. And I really believe that some people don't understand that. Not all holidays go well. You can lose your luggage, flights can be delayed, connections can be missed. And I think that people don't necessarily understand that as soon as you choose to travel, there is a lot of variables that could go wrong, and it is a risk. And then I think that's amplified when you're moving country and uprooting, if it's your family, your children, your career, all of it.
Yeah. Okay, and then you continued your journey moving to London, where you spent the following, how long were you living there?
Yeah, it was about 10 years. I did 10 summers in London.
Okay,
which was amazing.
That's amazing. And that's quite a good amount of time to feel like this is home, this is my place. I mean, I've been in New Zealand for 10 years. I would relate to that. Yeah. I mean, in and out, but did you get to that point where you felt like
London was home?
London, how do you call the London people? The
Londoners? But there's not that many, like,
never mind.
The Brits? Did I feel like a Brit?
Yeah, well, then like the whole country. But London is London, right?
Yeah.
Living in London, it's like, your 30s sounds exciting. I mean, I love London. It's a beautiful city. Yeah. Then when, I suppose, later on, if you are raising a family, it has its challenges. But what was life in London, and did it feel like home eventually? Like you felt like, well, this is my place.
Yes. So I had wanted to move to London since I was a teenager. And I did have an ancestral connection because my grandfather was born in London. So, as soon as I got to London, it felt like home. Yeah, it was somewhere I enjoyed living there, even with the weather. But it was a great base, and I really enjoyed all aspects of London. I always used to call it London life. And it is really busy. There's a lot of people, sometimes when you're squashed on the tube, is that the most enjoyable experience? Not always, but that is part of living in London.
Yeah.
And I think it's so iconic. And for me, who has, dreamed about living there since I was, a young girl, that reality of seeing Big Ben was just amazing for me. And then it was a gateway to Europe. And, to hop on a 2-3 hour flight and to be able to go to so many different countries at the same time, like it was amazing. And then career wise, there is a lot of different opportunities to be able to experience new things. And I was lucky that I was pre-opening hotels in Dubai, and that was able to translate into pre-opening restaurants in London, and that experience from Dubai really, really helped do that. And just the people I met, and I always loved London.
And after living abroad for 17 years and different countries, has the concept of home changed for you?
I think it has, and where I think if you have been an expat for a long time, for me personally, I think there's a piece of me in each of the places, but depending on life circumstances and situations, I think it was a forced choice to come home. So I think that there is a lot of me that still misses London life. I know that people have changed, and if I went back to London, it wouldn't be the London I remember. So I do believe that you can make home where you are, but you can also have multiple homes. I think that I still dabble in both worlds.
And how was coming back to New Zealand after such a long time? I mean, difficult circumstances anyway. And like you say, something that you kind of chose 100%. Because it was during the pandemic, the world was upside down.
Yeah.
And you found yourself back in New Zealand after such a long time. Although I imagine that you returned to the family, I suppose, on those 17 years.
I am one of those very anomalies. I came home every year.
Every year, okay.
Yeah.
But still, coming home, visiting is not the same as living.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
But anyway, good for you that you returned. I think that's fair for everyone, for the family, for those who stay, and to keep the connection with your home country. But how did you feel about coming back to New Zealand, and how were those first months here?
So I mean, I guess I had the double whammy of coming back in the pandemic, and then I went through MIQ, which is the managed isolation quarantine. And I literally had been out of MIQ for 2 weeks, and then it was my 40th birthday. I got to go to Queenstown for my 40th, which was amazing. And that, I think, really helped me see New Zealand and kind of as a tourist. And then I think that due to the timing of it, we were supposed to move to Brisbane and come here for the summer and then move. But as we all learnt collectively as a world, that no one could predict what was going to happen in COVID. So I think that probably for the first few months, it was, are we staying? Are we going to go? And then once we kind of knew we had to stay, then the more normality of settling back in happened. Then, the lockdown started happening. So we ended up being in, I think, about 12 months of lockdown on both sides of the world over 18 months. So it was, it was just a really different time. And I think that once you kind of got out of those lockdowns, which wasn't until maybe the end of 21, even New Zealand didn't really open up until, to the world till July 2022. So that's a long time for it. And everyone has a story about how COVID impacted them. So if we fast forward to kind of getting over that, if we all have,
You're right.
it's just very different. So I think that when you leave your home country or you travel to a different place and call somewhere else home, I think the best way I had it described to me was by another expat, and they'd lived in Dubai for about 10 years or so. And he said to me that the reason at times I can feel out of place is because I've changed a lot, but the New Zealand way of life hasn't. And even though all of us develop over time, but there's a significant difference. And I think hearing that, which was only a couple of years ago, that helped me understand at times why I feel different.
Yeah. I get it. Yeah. Yes. You reminded me of someone who told me back in Argentina, a friend of mine. She said, "Oh, I said to her, it's the same. Like I was in Buenos Aires. Oh, everything looks kind of the same here." I was just, speaking my mind, wasn't referring to anything in particular. And she looked at me and said, "Well, Maria, because you're the one who has changed." And I was like, "Oh, that seems like a lot. It hasn't changed. I'm the same." Then I realized that, oh, yes, I can see that I have changed. This happened.
Yeah. And
it would be strange that you wouldn't.
yes. And I think as well that if you are an expat or if you want to travel and you get the opportunity to, because I know that not everyone has that as well, which we can all recognize and acknowledge. The thing is that when people choose to stay and they don't have an interest of doing it, they're also changing as well, but it's in a different way. And so sometimes people that travel, they'll see things and be able to bring that back. And I definitely have found that if you talk about travel with people who haven't traveled, it doesn't land at all, and so something I've been aware of when I come back is trying to find somehow I can relate to them to make it not as difficult to connect, I think, from that. And I think that is probably something that can be a little bit challenging. Oh, you went overseas for a long time. I don't think you always plan everything as well.
No, not at all. It's just maybe years later, you look back and you start seeing patterns or understanding why you did certain things or reflecting a little bit. But no, at the moment, you're just living your life.
And I definitely think in my 20s, it was much easier just to be like, cool, I'm going to pack up and move here and not have anything. But as you get older, there is a lot more responsibility and other people to consider.
Yeah.
Not just you anymore.
Exactly. More things that, keep you in the place where you are. I mean, after all you've done in that place, like you build a life, why would you leave or start from scratch? It's like a lot of work as well. So, and you say you feel different. How do you feel about this term of living in between cultures or the third culture? Like you're not from here, you're not from there, and you live in the in-between. Do you relate to that? Even though you're living in the country where you were born, right?
Yeah. I mean, there are definitely some things that I'm very Kiwi. And then there are definitely some things that I feel like an expat in New Zealand at times. And I think my identity for so long was that I'm an expat. So then when you come home and then you're in your home country, then that's something different that I just don't think I considered because I was always going to probably stay away because I'd built a life and it was great. And I'd met my partner in London. Of course, he's Kiwi. He has a Tongan heritage as well. But, everyone in London loved our love story because, you went to school down the road from each other and you met here. And
lovely story.
So that was something that I think we had in common that was, we both related to being,
At least you have each other who you understand each other in those terms, right?
Yeah, and you didn't have to explain so many things, which I'm sure you experience, and you'll be like, at home we did this, and they look at you with a blank face, and then you've got to explain something.
It's funny how, through the podcast, I meet a lot of women who live abroad. Through the interviews or the circle we meet in person, and how often, if they have a partner, they most likely, not all of them, but in many cases, they were drawn to someone who is from their home country.
And I had really focused on making friends with people that were from different places to get that experience. So the fact that, we're coming up 10 years together and, have a Kiwi connection. I do remember being at his flat, and he used to live with someone he boarded at school with. And then I'm like, how am I in a flat with 3 Kiwis in London? Like, because
what happened?
yeah. But there we were.
Yeah. And sometimes it's funny, like we're 34 and like maybe the we're searching for some common ground. And
well, it's funny,
to win, like,
and it is that familiarity. And there is a very famous 8 Kiwis in London. He was a member, whereas I wasn't. So then we still end up having a lot of things, I guess, in common that were based, going to All Black matches or stuff like that. It was always fun.
Yeah, very cool. And so later on, you have a really interesting story on how you started to write this book. But we were talking about this before we started, we were talking about not a crisis, but a stage of confusion, of burnout, pivoting, starting stopping whatever you were doing professionally and reinventing yourself. So, I would love to know more about how that relates, your book, in connection to someone who is experiencing life abroad. And if you consider like this state of confusion is somehow connected to, especially early stages when you're first moving abroad, how is that connected? And from your own experience and lessons and what you have put in the book.
All of it together.
All of it.
And so I'd wanted to write a book for a long time. And actually, initially in MIQ, I was like, 2 weeks, I'm going to write a book. I had zero motivation. It was hard just even, to deal with that whole situation. So that didn't happen. I worked a lot, and there were a lot of different abilities with life, caring responsibilities, and I ended up with really severe burnout. And this was not the first time I'd had it. So I thought what might be a smarter thing to do is not repeat it again. So I took some time off, and it was definitely a really probably quite a challenging period because I knew that there was a book in me, I guess. And then I was like, okay, cool. How do I do it? And I think when you are in burnout, it can take a long time, depending what stage you're at, and it can take months, years to recover. So I was like, started talking to a lot of other people. Again, at this stage, I would have been 43. And the more conversations I had was that a lot of people at midlife, as they call it, were having conversations and being reflective. Where am I now? How do I want my next stage to look? And that was exactly what I was going through. And I don't think there is a lot of information to help us at this age. And I don't think, for me personally, I was really unprepared for the complexities of it. It's a very dense and busy time of your life. Also a blessing to be in your 40s. I know not everyone gets here. So I also agree. It's a great thing. But this whole midlife crisis, I think all of us have experienced, things in our lives that are a crisis. So for me, I think it's just confusion, and it's a real opportunity for us to go, okay, I've got 40 on it. It could be 35, 45, 55. I've got this life experience now, and how do I want my next chapter to look? So with that in mind, I got a book coach, and because I've definitely learned that you need people around you to help you learn new skills or different things. Like when you move, you need to get people around you. So I think when you decide to go into a new, if it's country or a new industry or career, there's all the parallels and kind of having to go back to not really knowing anything and the basics. Exactly. Yeah. So that was how the book started. And then I was like, well, if I can write about 12 areas that I found challenging in this midlife confusion that I quickly found myself in, And I think that's the other thing is I got here quickly. So I still sometimes was like, oh, I'm in my 20s or 30s. And then you're like, oh, you're in your mid 40s, love. So I just decided to start writing about 12 areas that would hopefully give people lessons and written with a bit of humor and information that will help them understand this is a very normal period and we're all going through some aspect of it.
And do you think that having returned to New Zealand or kind of living abroad, and this gives you the opportunity to change, like to start from fresh, you know?
I think when you travel, and I tell a lot of people who will say, should I go traveling? I always encourage them to, because you learn so much about yourself and your abilities that you don't know that you can do something. So again, like what you mentioned about stepping out of your comfort zone, I think is the greatest teacher. And even though there have been several things that have failed or not worked out, like there's definitely an event in London that was not ideal for me, but it also teaches you that if you can get through that, how did you do it? And then you see the patterns that you mentioned before. So then you can apply that to a new situation. And I definitely feel that we don't give ourselves the credit that we have already overcome or enjoyed elements.
It makes you stronger.
Absolutely.
Being exposed and stepping out of the comfort zone and exposing yourself to situations where the unknown, like writing a book at this moment.
Yeah. And all the stuff that comes with that. And I think also bits that you don't realize potentially how much it can be impactful, like when you miss family events, and it is your choice to travel, and I understand that, but it still doesn't mean that you don't sometimes get more upset than what you thought you could have been because you're not attending something that is significant to your friends or family, and then you go, oh, I wish I was there, and then that whole big kind of spiral can happen. And I think that's the same as if you've got the courage to do things and just backing yourself a little bit more, that you can. And if it's not great, like my grandfather said, if you make a decision that's the wrong one, all you need to do is make another decision. So I think that is the same of if you move somewhere, or if you're going to, and even if you're here and you want to change and move to a different city, or it's all just unfamiliar. But I definitely think you've got to be okay with being uncomfortable and embrace, like you say, it's a lesson. So even it might not have worked out, what have I learned from here? And then I think that makes it better than I did that wrong.
Yeah. And Nikki, you mentioned that thanks to living in Australia and Dubai, in England, you learn things about yourself. And you said, I mean, in general, when you move abroad, even unconsciously, you learn things about yourself. What would you say are the things you learn about yourself?
I think if I reflect on it, I think that probably one of the best things that I learned is being curious is a great way to be. And definitely that I can get through a lot more situations than I thought I could. And I also think that there's such a big world out there full of amazing people that you get to meet them. And I think that was something that I learned, that we always have more in common than what we don't. So I think that connecting with people was something that was good to learn, that I'm able to do that. But there's always something that you haven't, that you can relate to someone with. And maybe also saying yes to doing things that you may not have if you were in a different situation. And I think in a way, when you go somewhere different, it gives you nearly like a little bit more freedom than what you may feel that you have from where you're from. It is a bit more adventurous, or it's nearly as if you can make some like mistakes that, and it doesn't matter because I'm in a new place. And that could be a new suburb, that could be a new city, new country, what have you. But it's nearly like you get a bit more confident and not doing things correctly and making the errors. Oh, but I'm not from here, so it's okay. That kind of
It
stuff.
gives you that permission, like
Yeah.
it gives you permission to start from French. It also gives you permission to, well, make mistakes because I'm not from here, or do things
Differently that you've always wanted
differently.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's it. Giving permission, much better way of saying it.
And Nikki, we were talking also about your favorite chapter in the book, and it's also really, really connected to well, the life in between and what we always talk here at the Almost Local podcast. So what is that chapter, and why is that your favorite chapter?
So the chapter that I enjoyed writing the most was the one on friendship, and that friends are the family that you choose. And in my experience, I have met so many incredible people from living abroad. I also have some really great friends here in New Zealand, but I think friendship is something that we don't value enough. And the reason I enjoyed writing it is that all of these people have been very significant in my life, both at different times, but also to help me get the book done.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wanted to have appreciation for friendship in general, and every single person that I have been able to become friends with, that has given me so much. And I definitely know that I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my friends, and that is friends from New Zealand and from abroad. And it was such a joy to write a chapter about friendship for all of us. And I think when you get into your 40s, friendships can change because you can have people that are really focused on their career, or people really focused for their family, or they can be caring for their aging parents. So the dynamic can change in friendship a lot. And I think that we just don't talk about that enough. And I think you've got different levels of friendships. And then I always say that, friends come into your life for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. So kind of fleshing that out. And it was just a really joyous chapter. Right.
Yeah, but it's the people that is surround you and are there for you. And I mean, it seems obvious, but it's, especially when you are abroad making friends, it's something you need to do it's almost like an extra effort, because you need to find friends, you need to meet people but you can also not say it doesn't really matter because I'm not gonna leave anytime soon, or whatever story you tell yourself.
I think for me, and I don't know about you, when I got to London, it was still challenging, that integration period. As soon as I made good friends, it changed the experience. So I think friendships offer you so much, and you can, I've made friends from people that I lived with, or people that I worked with, or you tend to put in a bit more effort as well when you are not from there. That you go volunteer, or you'll go to more shows. Whereas I think if you're in an area that you're quite familiar with, you get a bit more complacent. So friends to me really made the places that I lived, and also still do. And I think something that we experience as we get older, it's harder to make friends, but then I would also question is how much effort are we putting in? So, and something that I coach myself with all the time is being back and live like a tourist in your own city, so that, will change to
have that curiosity. Well, I'm really happy that we met, and now I feel like we are becoming friends as well, which is great.
Yes.
And thank you so much, Nikki. I want to explore a lot of other topics together, because I think it relates so much about your book, about living abroad, and also because you have the experience of a long time living in other countries. So I want to say thank you for being here, for sharing openly. I love learning from you. And looking forward to doing some other podcasts and learning more from you, and looking also forward to what comes after this book.
No, it's amazing, Maria. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And something else I want to thank you for is helping me see things from a different perspective. Because when we have these chats and conversations, you say things that really land with me. And I think it's a real gift that you have. So love to chat some more with you and your audience.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. One thing that stayed with me was the reminder that slowing down isn't giving up. Sometimes it's exactly what allows us to hear ourselves again. Living abroad often asks us to reinvent parts of who we are. But perhaps burnout, big life changes, and moments of uncertainty ask us the very same question. If I stopped trying to prove myself, who would I become? I'd love to know what resonated most with you from today's conversation. As always, you can reply to our newsletter, leave a comment on social media, or come and continue the conversation at one of our almost local coffee circles that are happening here in Auckland, New Zealand. Because the best part of Almost Local has never been the podcast itself. It's been the conversations these stories begin. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd be so grateful if you share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a conversation. Until next time, and now I'm off to my morning coffee.